Testing. Good. We are using our microphones and inviting you to sing with us. Yada lai lai lai. Yada lai 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 lai. Yada lai 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 lai. Yada lai lai lai. Yada lai lai lai. Yada lai 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 lai. Yada la 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 la. Yada la 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 la. Yada la la la. Yada la la. Yada la la la. Good morning. Boker Tov.
Boker Or.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Shir Hadash. We are starting our Shabbat service, a very special Shabbat service in which we will commence the reading of the Book of Deuteronomy. And also, today, this morning, is a very special morning. Any idea why?
My bar mitzvah?
Correct. Yes.
30 points for you.
So because Abby is going to be coming up to the Torah, and we'll recognize you as a grown-up in our tradition. So we are very excited and very proud. I want to encourage you to use this device during the service and not your phones. We are recording, so don't worry about documenting. This morning is going to be documented. So please, we encourage you to use your prayer books, your booklets. Do you have a booklet for us to show? So that device. And we'll commence our service on page 6. We give thanks to God for waking up, for starting our day, and for giving us the trust to become the best version of ourselves. Modani. take a moment to acknowledge our community, this space that brings all of us together, and the space that all of us together create. We are on page, once again, 6 for Ine Matov Umanaim.
Ine Matov Umanaim, Shevet Kulam Gam Yachad. Ine Matov Umanaim, Shevet Kulam Gam Yachad. Ine Matov, Shevet Kulam Gam Yachad. Ine Matov, Shevet Kulam Gam Yachad. Ine Matov Umanayim, Shevet Kulam Gam Yachad. Ine Matov Umanayim, Shevet Kulam Gam Yachad. Ine Matov, Shevet Kulam Gam Yachad. Ine Matov, Shevet Kulam Gam Yachad.
In our Torah in the Book of Numbers, we are commanded to wear fringes that remind us of all of the commandments that we do in Judaism that guide us today. And it is an honor to invite up Avi's parents, Ariel and Tom, to share some brief words, to share a blessing, and then present him with his talit.
Avi, we are so proud of you. When you set your mind to something, there is no stopping you. Today is one of the many examples where you've worked hard and achieved a goal. Dad and I love seeing that instead of us putting out ideas for you, you're finding your own passions. It started when you were little with Minions and Kinder Eggs, and progressed to you walking over 1,000 miles in Pokemon walks, and today has evolved to activities like football and leadership. We hope you will continue to follow your heart and pursue what you love. I'll never forget Grandma Janet telling your dad and me there's something special about Avi when you were a toddler. You light up a room and people want to be with you. That has never changed. You may frustrate some of us along the way, but your leadership, creativity, and fun is undeniable. Just last week, one of the members of this congregation came up to Dad and me to share that we should be proud of the amazing young man you're becoming. She had a brief conversation with you like many others and saw that specialness. So, while as the middle child, you insist that Mom and Dad love your brothers more, I can assure you that you're wrong. Very wrong. You are like the cream in the Oreo, the peanut butter and jelly in the sandwich, the Golden Gate Bridge between San Francisco and Marin. We can't live without any of these. The world is a better place with you in it, and we have no doubt you will change its future with your passion, intelligence, and perseverance. We love you to the moon and back.
Thank you, Mother.
Of course, she went first. Okay,
Should be able to.
perfect, thank you. Avi, we're so proud of you as well. My nickname for Avi has always been the easy button. It's no surprise that you were able to get this done without anybody prompting you. In fact, I recall many times when you would ask me to get ready to take you to the cantor or the rabbi, and I'd said, we got time, and you'd say, no, Mom can get there in 5, and it takes you 15, because that's the way it is. Your positive attitudes, your strong friendships, and your hard work will get you far in life. I wrote a bunch of other stuff that'll make me cry, so I'm going to do it here. We'll talk about it later. But I will say, Avi, soak in today's moments. You've worked hard for this. Enjoy it. It's the moment, and your friends are here. enjoy this. We got your back. I love you.
Thank you, Father. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hi tatef b'tzitzit.
Amen.
Our service will continue.
May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for fellowship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Amen. We continue on page 11.
What we wish for our children. What we wish for our child, we wish for all children. We wish for you to be a person of character, strong but not tough, gentle but not weak.
We wish for you to be righteous but not self-righteous, honest but not unforgiving.
Wherever your journey, may your steps be firm, may you walk in just paths and not be afraid.
Whenever you speak, may your words be words of wisdom and friendship.
May your hands build and your heart preserve, which is good and beautiful in our world.
May the voices of the generations of our people move through you, and may the God of our ancestors be your God as well.
May you know that there is a people, a rich heritage to which you belong, and from that sacred place you are connected to all who dwell on the earth.
May the stories of our people be upon your heart, and the grace of the Torah rhythm dance in your soul.
We'll now turn for the blessing for our souls on page 12.
Elohai neshama shelatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shelatata bi tehorahi.
Elohai neshama shelatata bi Source of all creation, sovereign of all souls, Baruch atah Adonai, asher beyado nefesh kol chai v'ruach kol basar ish. Praise are you, Adonai, in whose hand is the living breath of all humankind.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lesek vivina, lechavhiv ben yom uven laila.
Amen. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim.
Amen. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, roka haaretz al hamayim.
Amen. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam amachim mitzadei gavel.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim.
Amen. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam anoten layaef koach.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hama'avir shenai me'enai, utnuma me'afapai.
Amen. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam who has created all human beings equal.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani b'chori.
Amen. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Israel.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael b'gvura.
Amen. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Israel b'tifara.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Amen.
After the morning blessings, and after reminding ourselves also of our obligation to daily engage in the study of Torah, to daily reconnect with our values, we will start the section of our service called the Psukei, the Simbra, Songs of Praise, in which we try to do the work of uplifting our souls. The Psukei de Simbra on Saturday start with Psalm 92, Mizmor Shir, Leyom HaShabbat.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך הלילות, עלי הסון ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון והגינות. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך רנן. מה גדול מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, happy are those who dwell in your house. We are at the bottom of page 15.
Ashrei Yoshrei Beitecha, Oyehalelucha Selah. Ashrei Yoshrei Beitecha, Oyehalelucha Selah. Ashrei, Ashrei, Ashrei Yoshrei Beitecha, Ashrei, Ashrei.
They shall sing your praises forever. Happy are those who dwell in your house. They shall sing your praises forever. They shall sing your praises forever.
We're on page 16 for Psalm 150, the last one of the book of Psalms, in which we acknowledge that there are so many paths to connect with the divine experience, so many links to our own souls. Kol הנשמה
תהלליה, הללו, הללויה.
כל הנשמה תהלליה,
הללו,
הללויה, הללו, 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 כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללו, הללויה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללו, הללויה, הללו, 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 הללו. Page 17, חצי קדיש.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, אמן. בעלמא דברה כרחותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל. בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירה בעלמא ואמרו אמן. Please rise if you are able to. Baruch et Adonai Hamevorah. Please be seated.
At this time, I'd like to invite all recent and upcoming B'nai Mitzvah at Shir Hadash to join Avi for our prayer of creation, Yotzer Or.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yotzer or uberei choshech Osei shalom shalom uberei et hakol. Yotzer or uberei choshech Osei shalom shalom uberei et hakol. Uberei et hakol. Uberei et hakol. Thanks, guys. We continue on page 22.
A loving parent does not show genuine love by telling a child, do whatever you want. That would not indicate love, but lack of concern and abdication of responsibility. The truly loving parent says to the child, I care very much about you, and although I cannot live your life for you, I want you to have the benefit of my experience.
The Jew understood from the beginning that Judaism was a religion of love because it did not leave one to find the way through life alone and unaided. It offered advice, insight, and experience. It was out of God's love and concern for Israel that God gave them the Torah so that instead of stumbling blindly, they might be aided by its principles. Take heed of its warnings and draw closer to God.
Please rise if you are able to. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvchol nafshecha uvchol meodecha vechayu hadvarim ha'elech asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam lefanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvleftecha v'derech u'shokvecha u'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu totafot b'neinecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha Laman tiskeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lechiyot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. We continue on page 26.
Slavery is not only a problem of the past. Modern men and women can be slaves.
When we think only of ourselves, we are slaves to selfishness.
When we are hateful to others because of their color or creed, we are slaves to prejudice.
When we always heed what others have, we are slaves to greed.
When we spread lying words about others, we are slaves to falsehood.
When we always have to be right or the winner, we are slaves to false pride.
When we are afraid to speak out against something we know is wrong, we are slaves to fear.
O eternal God, help us to be free.
We continue on page 28. Ya ba ba bim bim bum, ya ba 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 bim bum. Ya ba ba bim bim bum, ya ba ba bim bum. Ay ya 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 ya, ya ba ba bim bum. Ay ya 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 ya, ya ba ba bim bum. Mi chamocha, ba'olim Adonai. Mi chamocha, nedar b'kodesh. No ra tehilot, o seferet. No ra tehilot, o seferet. Shira hadasha, shipu ge'ulim. Leshimha, Alsafat hayam. Yahad kuam, hodu, vehimu ve'amru. Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed.
Zu Yisrael, kumam be'ezrat Yisrael. Uvedei chinumecha Yehuda veYisrael. Go'aleinu Adonai tzvaot shemo. Kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael.
Please rise if you are able to. Adonai, setai tifta ufia gita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Velohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon Gomel Hasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Ha'akol, Ve'zocher Hastei Avot, Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei Bneihem, Aman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshiach Umagen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah, atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mehaye hakol atah, Rav lechoshia, Mechachel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berahamim rabim, Somech noflim verofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato vishenei afar. Micha mocha ba'al gevurot umido melach. Melech memim umechayeh umatmiah Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah lehahayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai mehayeh hakol.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, כך כתוב היה נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ, Adir Adirenu, Adonai Adonenu, Mahadir Shimcha Bechol Haaretz, Baruch Kevod Adonai, Mimkomo Echad Eloheinu, Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu, Hu Moshienu Vehu Yashmienu, Berachamav Lehenei Kol Chai. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה, לבדור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, בשבחך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. We continue on page 35. Jude.
The Holy One, blessed be God, said to the Jews, I have said to you, when you pray, pray in the synagogue in your city. If you cannot pray in the synagogue, pray in your fields. And if you cannot pray in your fields, pray in your house. And if you cannot pray in your house, pray on your bed. And if you cannot pray on your bed, reflect in your heart.
We're continuing on page 38.
We thank you, O God, for our family and friends and for what we mean and bring to one another. We are grateful for the bonds of loyalty and affection which sustain us and which keep us close to one another, no matter how far apart we may be. We thank you for implanting within us a deep need for each other and for giving us the capacity to love and to care.
Help us to be modest in our demands of one another, but generous in our giving to each other. May we never measure how much love or encouragement we offer. May we never count the times we forgive. Rather, may we always be grateful that we have one another and that we are able to express our love in acts of kindness.
Keep us gentle in our speech. We may offer words of criticism, may they be chosen with care and spoken softly. May we waste no opportunity to speak words of sympathy, of appreciation, of praise.
Bless our family and friends with health, happiness, and contentment. Above all, grant us the wisdom to build a joyous and peaceful home in which your spirit will always abide. Amen.
Please continue on page 41.
To conclude Tfilat Amidah, this prayer that we just read together, with the blessing, the prayer for peace.
Oh, say shalom, B'Roma. Oh, say shalom, B'Roma. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say shalom, B'Roma. Oh, say shalom, B'Roma. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hallelujah. Unos, dos, tres, cuatro. May the one who brings peace, bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace, bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace, bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace, bring peace down, bring peace down.
We'll now continue our service on page 42, and we would like to invite, here we are.
Cherish the Torah, your heritage. Treasure its thoughts, its ways. Glean from its pages the legends, the laws, the wanderings, even the wars of your ancestors. Relive the days from Ur to Haran to Egypt to Canaan. Learn the lore of your Torah. Remember the patriarchs, prophets. Remember Moses, the prophet of prophets. You are their seed. Carry the torch for your times. Light the way in the vision, the new vision of a new day.
Page 43.
Ashlosha Devarim, Ashlosha Devarim, Ashlosha Devarim, Ha'olam, Ha'olam, Omen. Ashlosha Devarim, Ashlosha Devarim, Ashlosha Devarim, Ha'olam, Ha'olam, Amen. Al HaTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al HaTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim.
At this time, we prepare to open the ark and invite up 3 generations, this chain of tradition. Michael and Janet Klein, Ariel and Tom, and Avi. I ask the congregation to rise.
Ki mitzion
tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udvar Adonai miYerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udvar Adonai miYerushalayim. משה קיבל תורה מסיני ומסרה ליהושע. ביהושע לזקנים, בזקנים לנביאים. בנביאים מסרו על אנשי הכנסת הגדולה. Moses received Torah from Sinai, and he transferred it to Joshua. And Joshua to the elders of Israel, and the elders of Israel to our prophets. Our prophets to the people of the great assembly, to the rabbis. And so you have been waiting 13 years. We have been waiting 13 years to transfer Torah to you. So our rabbis pass Torah from generation to generation, and the families of our people have been transferring Torah from generation to generation. And so your parents transfer Torah to you in this morning of your bar mitzvah.
Shema Yisrael. Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shema.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu Adonai iti, unromema shemo yakdav.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lechar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lechar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lechar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lechar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu.
You may be seated.
There's nothing beyond the reach. There's nothing beyond the reach of your determination. These are the words that my grandma Karen used to tell my mom, and now my mom tells my brothers and me. Working towards a goal despite of times of discouragement and hopelessness. I believe that the theme of my Torah portion is working towards a goal despite times of encouragement. My Torah portion, Devarim, is the first portion in the last book of the Torah, Deuteronomy. Moses is giving his final speeches to the Israelites before he dies. He recounts to the Israelites different stories from the 40 years in the wilderness. Moses tells the people to provide for themselves, and they create a system of judges to oversee the tribes. During the journey, the Israelites come upon Amorite Mountain, and Moses shares that God has told them to fight for the land. However, the Israelites rebel against Moses and God. They think the Amorites are giants that will destroy them, and they can never win. The section that I found most interesting in my Torah portion is when the people ignore Moses despite him telling them to work hard and fight for the land. As a result, God becomes angry and decides that only the children of the Israelites will inherit the land. At that point, the Israelites realize they have sinned and decide to fight the Amorites. God commands that they should not fight because God is not in their midst. They go ahead and fight despite God's instructions, and as a result, many people die. The remaining Israelites feel hopeless and then continue their journey. Ultimately, Moses inspires the next generation of Israelites to set a goal of entering the promised land of Canaan with the support of God. The Israelites must not be discouraged by failure and loss. The reason why I found this interesting is because it reminds me of the idea that we can accomplish anything if we put our mind to it. Goals can be achievable, but we have to work hard. For me, I've worked very hard at tackle football over the past year. I practice 3 hours a day, 4 times a week, and I learned that if you want to be a starter on the team, then you have to practice regularly. However, even with hard work, it doesn't always mean that the coach will start you. My coach Roger also let us know that our level of commitment, such as showing up to the practices, giving our all, and being respectful, determines our amount of playing time. This connects to my Torah portion because the Israelites ignored God's guidance not to fight the Amorites, and as a result, God refused to give the land of Canaan to them. I'm also seeing examples in the news that remind me of the Israelites and their feelings of hopelessness. We live in a world faced with threats to our human rights and our safety and security. The pandemic has been exhausting for all of us, and the stressors of living with rising gas prices can consume us. It sometimes feels like we're moving backwards instead of forward on our journey of life. This reminds me of how the Israelites probably felt when many of the community was killed during the Battle of Amorite. We could choose hopelessness, but my Torah portion reminds us that setting a goal and working hard is a better path. I am hopeful for the future that we can work together as a community in which our rights and security are protected and we feel more at ease. As part of my bar mitzvah, I chose to participate in Yad Vashem's twinning project. Yad Vashem is a museum in Israel dedicated to preserving the memory of the Holocaust victims and therefore didn't have a b'nai mitzvah. The twinning program allowed me to learn about a child who was murdered during the Holocaust. My twin's name is Asher Andor Parnes, and he was 11 years old when he was killed. Asher was born on June 6, 1933 in Bisk, Hungary. This hits close to home because my grandpa Michael's family is from Hungary. Asher's mother's name was Ita, and his father's name was Menachem. He also had a brother, Peter, who was 3 years younger. My brother Jude is also 3 years younger than me. It's hard for me to imagine all of us being sent to a concentration camp. Sadly, all of Asher and his family were murdered in Auschwitz-Birkenau, an extermination camp in Poland. Asher never had the chance to have a bar mitzvah, but his life was cut short by the Nazis in Auschwitz-Birkenau. The Holocaust is an event where it feels like there are no answers to why God would allow this to happen. We must respect the past and learn from the generations before us. Do we hold all German children responsible for the sins of their parents? How can we move on if we continue to focus on the blame rather than the hope of the future? I look around this room and see myself surrounded by family and friends. Asher never had this opportunity, and my goal today is to represent his hope of a better future. I stand here able to read openly from the Torah and celebrate this important milestone. It's an honor and privilege for me to share this special moment with him today. I know that there will be more challenges ahead in my lifetime that I, the Jewish people, the country, and the world will face. Our Torah portion reminds us that with hard work, we can reach a better place in our journey. Even though a brighter future may not be in reach, if we hold on to that thought, there is nothing beyond the reach of our determination. Then we can all work our way that much closer to our own version of the promised land.
Thank you very much. Maybe sit. Shake your hand 1 second. You want to sit 1 sec?
Yeah.
I'll call you in a minute. It's very powerful to talk about journeys, particularly in the context of the Book of Deuteronomy, and it's very difficult to come after such a good speaker. So I'll try. We'll see how we manage. But thank you very much for the wisdom and the Torah. Around the Torah reading, we try to add our words and our ideas and our interpretation to what we extract from the text. Now, I want to take you a little bit around the Torah as an idea, because this is the last book of the Torah. So how many books do we have in the Torah? 5 books. The first one is Genesis. What's Genesis about? The creation of the world. That's the first Parashat. But then, from the creation of the world, from that beginning, we go into stories about families. and relationships, siblings, parents. And the book of Genesis ends with us going down. That's literally what's written, Laredet Mitzrayma, going down to Egypt. Now, what happens in Egypt is the book of, number 2, Exodus. Now, what happens in Exodus? Slavery, and then the most emblematic story for our people, the story of redemption. Now, we're going to a long journey that will pretty much take the entire Torah. 40 years in the desert, right? The book of Deuteronomy are actually almost the last 40 days. We'll get to that in a moment. So, in Exodus, besides leaving Egypt, what else? It's the giving of the Torah, right, at Mount Sinai, and the building of the tabernacle. Then, Leviticus. What's Leviticus about? Who says sacrifices? Yes, you're right, wherever you are. I heard sacrifices. So you are right. The sacrifices, and I will translate the word sacrifice, korban in Hebrew, with the word kirbah, which means proximity. There's an entire people, I think my volume is a bit too high. There's an entire people trying to figure out a relationship with God and trying to implement practices to find that proximity, that kirbah. Korban, once again, sacrifice is also proximity in Hebrew. Then the book of Numbers. We just finished the book of Numbers. What's the book of Numbers about? What? Shell. Counting things. So it starts off with a census, and that gives it its name. But there are lots of conflicts in the book of Numbers. It's all about problems between nations, also within the nation, right? The story of Korach is in the book of Numbers. The story of Pinchas is in the book of Numbers. These are internal conflicts that the people of Israel has. And then, by the end of the book of Numbers, we start talking about how we are going to divide our life in the land of Israel. And then Deuteronomy. Like, what's Deuteronomy about? Who says stories? John. Yes, it's about stories. But Deuteronomy, by definition, is a memoir. It's Moses recalling the journey. The entire book of Deuteronomy is Moses spending the last days of his life talking about what happened. And as we were learning with Ruth this week in a different conversation, it is a reminder to a new generation that didn't have the experience of the desert. They need to hear the story, as the story that you just brought up, Abby. To be a carrier of stories, of memories, is a very important job that you have taken upon yourself. And as a matter of fact, the book of Deuteronomy speaks exactly about that. Now, there's a verse, the 6th verse of the 1st chapter of Deuteronomy, that says, Rav lachem shevet al ha'araseh. You have been sitting in this mountain for too long. Now, what's Moses remembering? What mountain? Which one? So some people say it's Horeb, different one, and some people say that is Sinai. But as a matter of fact, what Moses is speaking about is the need to move from where you are. You can't stand forever or stay forever in the same place doing the same thing, because that means that you are not alive, that you have no growth. I want to tell you a story. I want something happened to me a couple of years ago. I think 20 years ago, no, a little bit less, 15 years ago, let's say. I was visiting Argentina. I was born in Argentina. And I crossed paths with a friend of my parents. And I think that the last time I saw that friend was, I don't know, many years earlier. I'll tell you, I think later on I knew, and I'll tell you in a moment. So we had a conversation, and we start speaking back and forth, how you're doing, how your children. I try to remember the names of their children. And then she asked me, and what do you do? I was like, well, I'm finishing my master in Jewish philosophy. She looked at me and said, you? Yes? I don't know. I didn't know, I didn't even understand what she was talking about. You? Yeah, I finished a BA in Jewish philosophy and education, and then, master in Jewish philosophy makes sense. And then she says, well, I didn't see that coming. And, we finished the conversation, and I went into the next thing, and I don't know where she did after that, but I kept thinking about it, like, what was that? And then I realized what happened there is that the last memory she had from me probably was from my bar mitzvah, or from when I was 14 years old. But since that moment, I moved several mountains. I was in different places. I experienced different things. We all grow if we are willing to grow. In her memory, I didn't. In that context, there is something very important that happens in the book of Deuteronomy. Moses, the same guy from Exodus, do you remember how he starts his relationship with God? I'll remind you. God says to him, I have a huge task for you in the burning bush. And Moses says, me? No, I can't. And God says, well, you need to go and speak to Pharaoh. And once again, Moses said, me? I'm not the guy for this job. You want me to speak? Moses had a speech impediment. And Pharaoh is sending him and God is sending him to talk to Pharaoh. And Moses at that time couldn't see himself fulfilling that task. But I think what happens later is quite unbelievable. What happens later? Well, we just said, right? Like the journey, etc., etc., etc. And then we get to the book of Deuteronomy. What did we say the book of Deuteronomy is about? It's a summary of every book. And how that happens? The book of Deuteronomy.
Because he was about to die, so he was telling his
die.
last stories. He was telling the stories of the before he was going to die.
You're
of the other
absolutely right.
books.
So Moses is telling all the last stories. He's making sure that the generation remembers. He's speaking for 36 days, non-stop. So it turns out that Moshe grew. I want to argue and say that holding Torah, that learning Torah, that studying Torah, that sharing Torah as you did this morning, Avi, is about personal growth. And the best example is Moses. Moses, who wasn't able to speak and ends up the entire Torah with a very lengthy speech. And you know what's the most interesting thing about it? We don't even think about it. It's not an issue because we saw the journey, so we understand how he got there. It's not a surprise that he can share such a long speech. I want to say that also about ourselves. I want to invite all of us to recognize what are the mountains in which we might be sitting, what are the places from which we might not be moving, and to contextualize those places in our journey, and to figure out what's next, to allow ourselves to grow and to explore and to discover And one more thing, to allow those around us, our children, our parents, our friends also, to move from the mountains in which we have put them. And I think that that will give us lots of perspective, lots of joy, and will allow us and them to make it to the promised land. Shabbat Shalom. Let's get started with the reading of Parashat Devarim.
Ya'amon Gabriel Tuva ben Shira Shoshana Harishon.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Be'ever ha'yarden, be'eretz Moav, ho'il Moshe, be'er et ha'torah hazot lemor. Adonai Eloheinu, diber eleinu, behorev lemor, rav lahem shevet bahar hazeh penu us'u lahem ovo'u har ha'emori ve'el kol shehenav va'arava bahar uvashfela uvanegev uvhov hayam eretz ha'kna'ani ve'halevanon Ad hanehar hagadol, nehar perat. Re'eh natati lifnehem et ha'aretz bu'u. Orshu et ha'aretz asher nishpa Adonai la'avotehem la'avraham Yitzhak u'Yaakov leteit lechem u'zar'am aharehem.
Beautiful.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torat emet V'hayei olam nata betoheinu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten ha'torah.
Amen.
So we wanted to draw attention to this special moment. While Avi was too busy playing Fortnite during the pandemic, Ben had his bar mitzvah on Zoom. I believe he was the second Zoom mitzvah that we had when the pandemic occurred. And as a result, you know what he didn't get to do? Chant from the Torah. So while this is not the same Torah portion, this is a very, very special moment for us and for Ben as he finally gets to chant from the Torah scroll.
So we say Mazel Tov.
Mazel
and now I get to
Tov.
give you the hug. I didn't get to give you that. Ya'amdu Chaya Batya Bat Chana v'Michael Chaim ben Aharon Leb Halevi v'Sara Hasheni. Okay, Avi, now you get to come. You're gonna come right over this way. Let's sit right here or there, either one. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher B'Chabanu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Va'omar alechem ba'etz chachi lemor lo'uchal levadi se'et etchem Adonai Elohechem hir ba'etchem vehinechem hayom kechochvei hashamayim l'rov Adonai Elohei avotechem Yosef Alechem Hachem Elef Pe'amim Vivarei Etchem Ka'asher Diber Lachem Echa Esa Levadi Torchachem Umasa'achem Verivechem.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet Ve'achelon Natatenu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Please come and hug your grandson. We're going to have you go right on this side. Mazel tov. Ta'amod Shira Shoshana Bat Michael Chaim Halevi Hashlishi.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Where are we?
No, down further.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Havu lahem anashim chachamim unvonim viduim l'shivtechem ve'asimim berachshechem v'ta'anu oti v'tomeru tov hadavar asher dibarta la'asot va'eka et rashi shivtechem anashim chachamim viduim va'etain otam rashim alechem sarei alafim vesarei me'ot vesarei chamishim vesarei asarot veshotrim l'shivtechem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'chayei Olam Nata B'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Okay, have him kiss mom and dad.
Shakoach,
I
shakoach.
think I'm hooked on a button.
Shakoach, shakoach.
Wait, no, wait. Okay, ready? Yeah. I gotta call you up first, okay? So I said,
But let's call him from somewhere.
Okay,
Go somewhere.
go sit
So,
somewhere.
an important thing you need to be from, you need to come from somewhere, right? The idea of calling someone up to the Torah is that we acknowledge that that person can represent the community. The blessing over the reading of the Torah can only be done by an adult. A child can read from the Torah, but only an adult can say, I take responsibility for the reading of Torah, and when the adult says that, then the congregation, the community, answers to him, to her, to them. And we say, we trust you. We say that we believe that we can count on you. And that's literally what happens. We will count, starting today, Avi for a minyan, for the group of 10 that we need in order to perform many, many activities in Jewish life. So we will call him up now to the Torah, and from this moment on, he will be recognized as an adult in our community.
יעמוד הבחור הבר מצווה חיים ציפור בן שיר השושן המפטיר חזק
Ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 Oy, 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 Mazel Tov. Oy, 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 Simen Tov. Oy, 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 Yelanu, Yelanu. ובכל עם ישראל, לה 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 לה, יה לה 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 לה, יה לה 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 לה.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Let's see. Okay. Va'atzaveh et shoftechem ba'et hachi Lemor shamoa ben achechem veshotetem sedek ben ish uben achi uben gero otakiru fanim bamishpat kakaton kagadol tishmaun lo tagru mipnei ish ki Hamishpat Elohim Hu V'Hadavar Asher Yishemikem Takrivun Elai V'Ushmotiv Ba'atzaveh Etchem Ba'et Hahi Et Chol HaDevarim Asher Te'asun. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayeh olam nata betoheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Ya'amdu Hagbabi v'Hagolel Ya'amod Gabriel Tuva ben Shira Shoshana. We rise as the Torah is lifted. Okay, get back off for your brother.
Lift.
Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael
You may be seated.
You get to go back down. Okay. Why don't you stay with me? All right. What we're gonna do? Okay.
Oh, wait, yeah. Have you ever felt like you haven't followed God's commandments? In my Haftorah portion, Isaiah the prophet tells the Jewish people that they are not listening to God and as a result will be punished. He reminds the people that God has been like a father to the Jewish people. Instead of being grateful, they are breaking rules and failing to perform acts of social justice. They are then punished for sinning. This happens over and over again instead of learning from their mistakes. Isaiah gets mad and tells the people to change their behavior. He asks them to do good, devote yourself to justice, aid the wrong, and practice rituals to God. Isaiah promises that they will be rewarded if they follow this guidance. He changes his tone towards the end of the Haftorah and lets the Jewish people know that despite the downfall of Judah and Jerusalem, there is hope for the future where Zion will be saved. This Shabbat also precedes Tisha B'Av, the saddest day on the Jewish calendar, because it marks the anniversary of the destruction of the temple. It is usually called Shabbat Hazon because it is named after the first word in our Haftorah this week, which is from the beginning of the book of Isaiah. I also think that this relates to my Torah portion because Isaiah tells the Jews that they are not following commandments, and he provides hope for the future. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar binvim tovim beratzah b'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Haboher Batorah Uv Moshe Avdo Uv Yisrael Amo Uvim Vie Ha'emet Vatzedek. Sarai Sorerim Behavre Ganavim Kuo Ohev Shohad Verodev Shalmonim Yatom Wo Yishpotu Veriv Almana Wo Yavo Alechem Lahen Neum Ha'adon Adonai Sevaot Avir Yisrael Hoy Enachen Mitzarai Ve'inak Ma'a Me'oyevai Ve'ashiva Yadi Alayich Ve'et Rov Kabor Sigayich Ve'asira Kol Bedilayich Ve'ashiva Shovtaich Kevari Shona Ve'yo Atzaich Kevat Hila Aharehen Yikare La Ir Hatzedek Kirya Ne'emana Zion Bemishpat Tifadeh Beshavecha B'tzedakah. Baruch atah Adonai Elokeinu melech ha'olam Sor kol ha'olamim Sadik bechol hadorot Ha'el ha'ne'eman Ha'omer ve'oseh, hamdaber u'mkayem, shechol devarav emet v'tzedek. Al haTorah ve'al havodah ve'al hanvi'im ve'al yom haShabbat hazeh. Shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnuha lahavod utifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim la umvarchim ota yitbarach shimha befi kol chai tamid leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
And while the Torah is still outside of the ark, we take a moment to acknowledge those that are dealing with illness in their bodies, illness in their souls. We think of those carrying grief. We think of those dealing with addictions. As we say, Misheberach, Aboteinu ve'imoteinu, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Yevarech, et HaCholim, the one who blessed our ancestors, will bless those who are ill. And if you'd like to share a name of a person you're thinking of in this morning of Shabbat, you're invited to do so as we go around the room.
And we think of members of our congregation, Rusty Gralnick, Richard Kennemer, Jack Long, John Gringorton, Bruce Roberts, Stuart Mass, Mira Engel, Alfreda Massman, Lori Shaken, Jill Becker, Gail Franco, Zach Garner, a former member of our preschool, Richard Ravitch, a former member of Shir Hadash, Lauren Janovich, the cousin of Joyce Spodek, Mary Sasso, sister of Chris Sasso, Kay Dameron, friend of Shel Rubenstein, Pesel Bat Anna Sarah, Brent Abelson, the nephew of Carol Zabridger, and Jonathan Stern, the son of community member Elle Stern.
May the blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send to them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Wish to all of them refuah shlema, a complete and a fast recovery. We'd like to invite, at this point, your parents, Avi, to say Shehecheyanu with you, to acknowledge this moment, this milestone that you, and not only you, they have achieved. Because they are going to say Shehecheyanu. They brought you to this moment, and for that they will say the blessing that acknowledge.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen.
Amen. So Avi, I get a second to say something to you too. So I have two things I want to say quickly to you. The first is one of the things I love about you the most is your gift of asking questions. I hope that gift never goes away. That is a part of being Jewish. As Jews, we ask questions, and we are allowed to ask questions. So continue that love of asking questions, and I hope that you sometimes get the answer that you want, okay? Sometimes you might not, but never ever lose that love of asking questions. And the second thing that I want to add is you talk about football, and you know I'm a big sports fan as it is, okay? So I know as a tight end that one of the things you have to do is you have to catch the ball from the quarterback, right? Okay? That takes a lot of practice. Preparing for today took a lot of practice, okay? Sometimes we wavered a little in and out of that, okay? But you succeeded very well today. And I want you to keep that drive that you have both on the football field and that you use for your preparation for today, always as preparation for what you do in life, okay? And it's my pleasure to invite Allison Brunner to come up to present some gifts to you from the board. And I'm gonna sneak down here just to grab them up here for her.
Shabbat Shalom. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the congregation, I'd like to welcome you all to our services today and offer just a giant, heartfelt mazel tov to Avi, you did it, and your family on this very special day. I'd like to share a few announcements first. Tomorrow is Tisha B'Av with Hadar. It's a day of in-person and online learning and prayer from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tisha B'Av, the saddest day of the Jewish year, is a day of disruption from our routines as we mourn the loss of the temple and other tragedies of Jewish history and our world. Our Roaring 20s Speakeasy Gala is next weekend at 6:30. Dust off your feathers and pearls. Our annual gala is roaring back to life as a 1920s style speakeasy extravaganza. Don't feel prohibited. We'll have libations and food aplenty. Register today. The auction is now live. Last, please join us on the First of Elul barbecue. For our First of Elul barbecue, celebrate the end of summer as we come together for a family-friendly barbecue. We'll welcome the holiday and help prepare for the year ahead by stocking up the freezer for the caring committee, baking cookies for the oneg, or sending Get Out the Vote postcards. Enjoy lunch, frozen treats, and lawn games. We hope to see faces that you're going to be able to see faces you've been missing and enjoy the fresh air. Please sign up online so that we can make sure there's enough food for everyone. The event is free and optional donations are welcome. What did I tell you about this part? You made it. You did a great, amazing, knock it out of the park or field job today. I've known your family. I've had the pleasure of knowing you and your family for many years now. And from your early years playing soccer, and I'm very sure it's the same when you're on the football field, I watched you on the field excel with passion, spirit, agility, and determination. And you clearly brought that to your preparation today. What an amazing job, Mazel Tov. I love watching your Jewish values come to life with your wonderful mitzvah project, twinning and sharing your day with a boy who was not able to experience this milestone, and in your actions like participating in the Los Gatos March Against Hate, and in your deep, deep kindness to others. I know this milestone, this goal, means so very much to you as you have built your strong Jewish identity, and that in your heart and mind, it means that you achieved your goal, that you are
a bar mitzvah
certified Jewish
man.
Yes, that's right. We had a good time talking recently.
That Frappuccino was pretty good.
That was pretty good. Anytime. And Avi, you are both an exemplar and a symbol of hope for our Jewish people and community. May this day serve as an inspiration to you always, that you can achieve what you set your mind to, and may your Jewish faith always lift you up and be a source of strength. Mazel tov.
Thank you.
I'm pleased to present you with some special gifts to mark this special event. I think they are all up here. Oh, good. Look at that go. Okay. This is the certificate to certify that you're Jewish, that you're a bar mitzvah. This is a beautiful Kiddush cup made especially for you, with the hope that your life will be filled with many joyous celebrations. And your own copy of our high holiday prayer books, so that you are, your own person now. A certificate worth $250 towards a post-confirmation trip to Israel is in that envelope, and the other thing that's in the envelope is a year-long membership to the JCC. Mazel tov.
Thank you. We should put wine in here.
We will now invite you to please rise as we return the Torah to the Ark. It is a tree of life for those who hold fast to it. And its beholders find joy in its paths. Return us to you, Adonai, and we will return, renew our days as of in days of old.
Ledovado, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our hearts, from the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part, we are blessed and we are holy, we are children of your way, and the words that bring us meaning we will have the strength to say. Ledovado nagid kod lecha, ledovado we protect this chain from generation to generation. Ledovado, these lips will praise your name. Ledovado nagid kod lecha, ledovado we protect this chain from generation to generation. Ledovado, these lips will praise your name.
Our service continues on page 50 with Aleinu Leshabeach.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לאחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
You may be seated.
We're continuing on page 51.
May the time soon come when sisters act like sisters and brothers act like brothers, when the world will not be at war.
Children will grow up in a world full of peace and love. At night they can sleep without being afraid. Nature will love again and will flourish in the light of peace. The trees will not wither because of our destruction.
The lives of flowers will not be trampled underfoot. People will be free to believe in anything they want to.
No one will try to enslave their minds and bodies. The color of a person's skin or religion will not matter.
Prejudice will be wiped off the face of the earth, and justice will take its place. God will look down on the world of women and men and smile.
I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something.
We're continuing on the bottom of page 52.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
We continue on page 54.
In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember them.
Blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them.
In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them.
In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of the summer, we remember them.
In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them.
In
the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them.
When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them.
When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them.
When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them.
So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us, as we remember them. The Kaddish can be found on page 55. If you are in the first 7 days of mourning, we invite you to rise, remain standing, and share the name of your loved one. If you are in the first 30 days, Shloshim, we invite you to rise, remain standing, and say their name. If you are in the first year of mourning, we invite you to rise, remain standing, and say their name. And if this is a yard site for you this Shabbat, the anniversary of the time when a loved one passed away, we invite you to rise, say their name. Chuck Felder. As a congregation, we offer our condolences to Matt Newton on the death of his grandmother, Rosella Newton, and those who've died in this past year, Linda Sherry, Fred DeCastro, Sherry Skehan, Larry Eisen, Harry Gross, Michael Taub, David Schwartz, Rhoda Fryman, Eliad Foner Lipsitz, Ron Wolk, Tamara Noten, James C. Price, Colette Kaplowitz, Rita Smith, David Corman, Jay Guadalupe Chavez, Newt Westergren, Elizabeth Ludwig, Bernard Kennis, Charles Stone, and those who died at this season in years past, Abraham Ball and Arthur Siegel. The memories of all of them are with us. Our grief and our sympathy are mingled, and Avi wants to remember at this time some special members of his family.
We remember Karen Klein and Marietta Sutton, both my grandmothers, and my uncle Timothy Sutton.
If it is your custom to rise for the Mourner's Kaddish, we invite you to do so as we continue on page 55. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael b'gala u'v'zman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei amayam. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei kudesha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen.
May the memories of your dear ones be always a blessing in your life. Yeh Zichram Baruch.
And our closing song is, are we doing Kiddush and Motzi first? Outside here?
Outside.
Outside.
We'll sit outside.
Okay. Our closing song is Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. You can find it on page, in the back of our prayer book on page 58.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, shalom. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu,
עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם. סלאם עלינו ועל כל העולם. סלאם, סלאם, סלאם עלינו ועל כל העולם. סלאם, שלום.
As we pray also for peace, we say once again, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו,
עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם.
אדוני עוז לעמיו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. שבת שלום everyone.
שבת שלום.
That white table?
סלאם עלינו ועל כל העולם. סלאם שלום. יאללה 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 יאללה